All right, everybody, we have quorum and it is 6:30. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Here. Present.
Here. Have a quorum. Can I have a motion on the agenda, please?
So moved.
Mr. Rosales, a second? A second by Mr. Anderson. Any changes or suggestions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the agenda is approved. Can I have a motion on the minutes of March 7th, 2017? So moved. Mr. Harper, seconded by Mr. Rosales. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the minutes, please say aye. Any opposed? None opposed, that will pass. We'll move forward with public participation. I do not have any slips. Our one member of the public is here just to observe. We'll close that and move on to communications from board members. Anyone have anything to communicate? Seeing no hands, we'll move forward yet once again. On to number 7, request approval of updated FY17 capital asset projects. Dana.
Thanks, Josh. Page 4 of your packet, and first let me apologize that folks did not receive a packet. We did mail them out Wednesday to home addresses. They were delivered directly to the post office, so I'm not sure what happened, but we will rectify that for the future, so I do apologize. On page 4 of the agenda is an updated capital assets proposed project. At last month's meeting, we had discussion about the list, and board member Gross did point out something. I went back and talked to Tammy, and I made an error. Tammy had told me that the nursing home chiller compressor, those charges we would get reimbursed. We would bill the nursing home. I did not include those on it, and we need to be able to charge to a budget line item in order to send them a bill. So I have reworked our proposed capital assets. If you remember, we also had on there a new boiler water heater for the nursing home, which we did not need to do since they went ahead and replaced the heat exchanger. So we've taken that off, and we've replaced it with the new compressor. We've reshuffled the water heater at the penthouse for the satellite jail, one of their 2 water heaters, to line 8. Without getting to that, we're sitting on about $42,000, providing everything comes in as projected, which we fully intend it to. And in fact, hopefully we can beat some of those prices and be able to do a little bit more. But we're going to hold off on that until the first 3 projects that we have ongoing and under design right now are bid out, and we find out those results. So anyway, I submit this for your approval, and apologize. Had to rework it.
Dana, do you need us to move this and, again, as an updated list? Okay, I would ask for a motion to move this updated list of projects. From Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Tinsley. Any questions or adjustments?
I have one question.
Yeah, Mr. Weibel.
Dana, you said 3 of them are out for bid right now?
No.
Oh.
We are working on the documentation for 3 currently right now.
Okay.
They will be coming back to the facility committee in May, going to the county board at the end of May for approval before they go out in the street on bid.
Okay.
Okay, it's our intention, should we seek approval and get it from both groups, that it'll be bid out over the course basically of June. Those projects will happen during the summer. The compressor is, like to get that done as quickly as possible. Those are a little more accessible than some of the other items. So,
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that will pass. We'll also move forward to an approval of the Mental Health Board and Developmental Disabilities Board lease. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
From Mr. God dang, Stan. Sorry, Mr. Harper. From Mr. Harper. My brain was freezing for a half second. From Mr. Harper. Can I have a second? Second from Mr. Anderson. Now, Dana, please.
Okay, on page 5 starts the updated lease agreement with the Mental Health and Development Disabilities Board. It was a slight increase in their proposed rent for this year. It went up by the CPI increase for 2016, which was just less than 2%, 1.8 or 1.7 and some change. All other terms and conditions, they've got 1,744 square feet of office space in Pod 200. Some of you may remember that they had about 3,000 square foot, and another 12,000, almost 1,300 square feet for Access Initiative, that they used to rent, but that rent concluded, or lease concluded last year, middle of the summer. They're pretty happy with their space. They're very happy with the lease agreement. It's based upon this dollar amount for the lease for this year. We're virtually at $12 a square foot. And as you'll hear me say later, probably the average in town for leased office space is somewhere between $11 and $12 for a decent space. Office space that is can be provided. You can find cheaper, but doesn't have some of the amenities that this particular building has, and you can find more expensive. So their lease also includes their utilities, so it's a pretty good lease for them. So we feel pretty good about where that's at. I will say that we are looking at all of our leases because they have been all over the map. They range for whatever reason, and from low dollars to higher dollars. And as leases terminate and we renew, we certainly are looking to try and make them competitively within our community, but also fair and a little closer to the same dollar amount that people are paying currently. So,
Thank you, Dana. Does anybody have any questions about this lease? All right, all those in favor of executing it, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that'll move forward. All right, now we'll move on to the Facilities Director's Report. Back to you again, Dana.
In your packet, on pages 13 and 14, were just Xerox copies. These are the DCO dollars that we were successful in obtaining for 2 projects that finished up this past fiscal year. Boiler installation at Brookins here in our basement with 2 boilers, and then 4 boilers over at the nursing home. The boilers at the nursing home were obviously a much larger project. $56,000 was the grant award which we received, and then over here we're $18,550 for the boilers here. So feel fortunate to be able to do that. We are not sure where the state will be for future projects as we roll into our projects for this year, because we don't know what the status of the organization, if they will be intact. There's rumors that Ameren may be taking over running it for the future. Ameren currently, that's how these things are afforded currently, that in everybody's Ameren bill, there's money pulled out to help fund these types of projects. And formally, at least up and through this year, they've gone to the state to be run through the Office of DCEO. Have yet to hear, but we are constantly asking questions of various vendors who do a lot of work closely with the group. No one out of their shop knows or understands. They don't know if they're going to be employed or not. Some of them are planning on not being employed. You've got some more information?
Yes, Dana, just to follow up on your comment, I received notification today, actually, from Ameren that there, in fact, is going to be a program for public sector entities, and there will be a workshop coming up in Springfield, I believe in June, to discuss the administration of that program. So I'm going to forward that information to you now.
Sounds like I have a meeting in June.
All right, anything else on that one? All right, let's move forward to the Dobbins Down Playground.
At last meeting, we had some discussion. Once I informed the group and reminded the group of the Dobbins Down Playground on North Campbell. We held off on a demo for about 3 weeks. We actually finally gave him approval last week. Talked to Jack and gave Jack an opportunity to talk to folks at Rantoul to see if they could find or wanted this material to be reinstalled at another area. Again, we tried unsuccessfully a number of avenues. We first contacted the Champaign Park districts. They had no interest in keeping the park going as is, nor did they want the equipment. We then went to what seemed logical was Urbana Park District to see not if they would keep the park going, but if we could pull the equipment, would or could they install it in another location. We did point out the fact it would be great to have around this facility because there's a lot of athletic fields that are used for athletic participation. Lots of brothers and sisters who attend these sporting activities looking for things to do. Thought it'd be a good idea. They took a look at the equipment and then looked into it more, and they declined. We talked to Savoy. We talked to just about anybody who would listen, frankly, and could not find anyone. I have good news, however, that once we gave our contractor authorization to go ahead and demolish, they found somebody to donate it to. So it's the Girls and Boys Club from Mohammed. Contractor went to extra lengths. There are probably 40 or 50 poles, as you can see from the first picture that I handed out. At the bottom of those poles, 3 feet down, is about 10 gallons of concrete. They brought in a power drill and put a chipper on there and knocked about 9 gallons of the concrete off. They pulled it out very carefully, delivered. They even went to the extent that they contacted the manufacturer to find plans for installation to assist Mohammed put these in. So they did a tremendous job. As you flip through the pages, you can see they brought in dirt. They smoothed it out. It is in terrific shape. I haven't been out there this morning, but I was told by the contractor that this morning they actually got down grass seed and straw. So with the rain we've had today, it'll get started, and hopefully in about 2 weeks, we will begin mowing. Since this is county property at this address, once a week we will mow it. We'll pick up the trash. We'll be a good neighbor until such time that the county can find something to do with the property. But until that time, we'll be taking care of it, so.
Do you know, Rick, what the process we need to go to perhaps list this for sale as a lot?
The state's attorney's office has already begun the process of getting everything prepared. One question I had posed to them was the possibility of donating this property to Habitat for Humanity. I think that would be an excellent use for this space and that neighborhood. My understanding is that we have to engage in a good faith effort to market and sell the property first before we can consider that.
I have a question. Please, Mr. Have any of the adjacent neighbors considered in purchasing the lot to expand their lots? They haven't been approached?
I have no knowledge of that, nor have we reached out to the neighbors other than with the assistance of John Hall to try and answer and follow up on complaints from the neighborhood, trash, buildup. So we've been out there a number of times, unsightliness, when we took the equipment down, there was, a number of things painted on the equipment. We've been out there probably 3 or 4 times. So has the city of Champaign Park District to assist with removing some of that graffiti. But no, we've not talked to anyone about, purchasing or building on it in some manner. So,
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, questions about this Dobbins Down issue? Yeah, Jack?
Just a brief question, thank you. Dana, with regard to the fence in the back of the lots, looks like about a 5-footer. Is that ours, or are we just going to donate that to the neighbor, or,
That is the neighbor's fence.
okay. Seemed kind of high, but thought
Yeah.
maybe we'd put that up as part of the keep people out.
No, we did not. We did bring our fence over to it and got permission to wire it to their fence, but no, that's
Thank you.
not ours.
Anyone else with questions? All right, thank you, Dana. That's, looks good. Let's move on over to the update on the coroner's office supply storage and physical generator, plant generator project.
Okay, I've been meeting with GHR. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow. We are moving very quickly. We have a 95% review scheduled for tomorrow on the document. We've settled on a location. Got a lot of things done, so we will be bringing to the next meeting a document. We will make sure that it gets out in advance so everyone has an opportunity to read it, because it will be fairly lengthy, as well as the other two that we'll be submitting at the same time. So we'll probably try and get that out and have a little earlier agenda review specifically for that meeting to allow you to read through that, because it will be a lot of material, unless this group doesn't want to, but I would suggest, to take a look at it. But it's going to be a couple hundred pages of documentation. Now, a lot of it's boilerplate, but
So if any of us have difficulty sleeping, we'll
yeah,
have it
it'll be a wonderful sleep aid.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Look forward to that next month. And an update on the Lease mold report.
Yeah, contained in this document is the latest mold report. We have done 2 studies, folks. In February of 16, we felt, being over there, we sensed it. We knew the roof was already leaking. It was visible in some areas. We felt like it was in our best interest, because we rent the entire facility, and they train in that facility through Lease, that we needed to understand the levels of the mold to see what liability the county had for letting people in and renting the space. Those levels came back at so high in some of the areas. The old poorhouse out front, it's 3 stories in a basement. We locked up, literally, all 3 floors, no longer accessible. And the second floor of the old nursing home, we did the same thing, because the levels of mold up there were too high to put people in for any amount of time. We knew that, by closing those off, the roof is still leaking. Water obviously travels down. We wanted to retest again just to see where we were within a year, and we did that again in February and got the report back in March, and have met with Lease, so they know and understand. But we basically have condemned the old portion of the nursing home, which Lease has rented up until now. That's 68,000 square feet at about $2.10 a square foot for the year. It's problematic for them because it was great space that they didn't have to worry about bumping into anything, and they could they have a tremendous amount of different types of training that goes on, and that afforded them the ability to be able to change that training to make it look different. They are currently going to be using the B and C wing of the facility they're in right now. They also rent that. That's about 58,000 square feet at a little higher dollar amount, about $5.50 a year. So basically, we've condemned the space. We have to keep them out. The liability and risk is too great. If you look at the report, you can see the numbers, and it's astronomical. what the lab turned back from our quick testing and what they were able to grow and generate. So we did take a tour of it this evening. You can't smell it, you can't feel it in the newer part of the building. We will be taking a hard look at the old facility and meeting with a number of people, including the Lease folks, but IT, our own physical plant staff. We have a number of utilities that go through the old basement. That's underneath the condemned area that we'll have to determine how we're able to relocate those feeds to the newer portion of the building, if it's possible. We have our fiber optic cable for all the IT needs, and they are many in that facility. So we'll be looking at that over the next couple of months, trying to come up with a plan, how we may proceed. But the end result down the road is that we're going to have to tear that building down. There also, as I say that, there's some remediation that will have to be done, and we're not talking about mold here, but there is asbestos in the facility. There's also some lead that will have to be remediated. We pretty much know where it's at. If you remember back a year and a half, 2 years ago, we tore down about 5,500 square feet of the 1945 structure, and I did a lot of testing back at that juncture, so it's still valid. We know where it's at. We will have to update our pricing for remediation on that, just to have an idea. We have some ideas and thoughts about overall cost after remediation, the cost of knocking it down. We have, ask around a little bit to get an idea there for budgeting purposes, but for all intents and purposes, the old portion of the building is no longer viable.
Questions on that issue? Suggestions? Gallon of gas in a lighter? I'm kidding, please. All right, thanks for that report, Dana. We'll move on to other business. I have none. We'll move on to the chair's report. Our next meeting is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. We will have a tour of the satellite jail beginning at 5:15. I encourage all board members to consider attending that. Let's see, designation of items for the consent agenda. Number 8 would go on the consent agenda, but I do not believe number 7 needs to. No. Very good. And with that, without any objection, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you, everybody.